Okay, Liz Bowen.
I think our problem with harm and what is being considered as harm is where our definition really needs to be explained better, needs to be looked into. Quantity is an important aspect of pollution. There is the non-point source pollution and the pollution which the ground from just extra rain comes down. What I'm really concerned about is we still continue to have people in other areas tell us what we should do, or people who don't work our land tell us what we should do. Most of us do not do the harm that cows have been given. Cows have been given a bum rap. And that's just the truth. And I'd like to see some sort of quantitative monitoring and study of that to see if, just like on Caroline's property, the pile of manure that was talked about last night in a meeting may not be a pile of manure. Have they really went in and asked if they could check and see what kind of manure it is, or if it's a pile of soil? And after a while, a pile of manure turns into a pile of soil. And it's not by the creek, so it's not going into the creek. And yes, there are some high waters, but there's sediment's going to come in there anyway. The practicality of life gets taken out of this so much of the time. And Water Board, and staff, I need to ask you one more time. We need to be able to thin our trees in these mountains. We need regulation that will help us to be able to allow smaller landowners and the big ones to be able to do good management jobs, but these trees need to be thinned. They are not at natural amount of trees out there. There's way too many, and I think quantity needs to be checked in a variety of these aspects, that there is just an assumption that it's bad.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you. Okay, Tom Pease, and then Anita Still, and Sharna, I'm going to leave you to last. And that's just about the time we have. So, Tom Pease.
I really had no intention of coming in here speaking today, but one of the things that really struck me when I walked in here, first of all, I don't know why you can't eat a salmon or a fish or any kind of fish out of Scott River. Never heard of any problem down there, but anyway, people can say what they want to say. This is kind of way off the subject. We've got a people here that believe in a variety of very different things, how to do things, how to manage them, what we should do, what we shouldn't do. Some people think, well, it's my land, I'll do what I want. And that's all fine and good. But we as a group can sit here, we can talk about it, and I'll bet you $1 to a donut that if we all got together and we all sat around the table and we all talked about it, we could come up with an agreement. It seems to me that the biggest problem we have, and I won't go through all the acronyms, but I will tell you, North Coast Water Quality Board, Fish and Game, Forest Service, you go on and on and on about all these agencies that govern our lives. Wouldn't it just be dandy if every one of these agencies would sit down and get together with each other and decide what might be a good program? We just went through, I'm not promoting this, but I'm a proud member of POW, Protect Our Water, Scott Valley. We just went through a year of meetings and everything else dealing with the Department of Fish and Game on the ITP. Well, that got kind of set aside. We're okay with that right now, but it's coming back. We can't let up. Now, we've got this issue that we're dealing with today. I think it's time that we all just sit down and say, wait a minute, we've got so many government agencies, they want to come in and do one thing, that's fine. But you know what? Fish and Game won't let us do that. Want to do a timber harvesting plan? Well, you've got to get together with this and this and this, and they won't let you do this way, so you do that way. Wouldn't it just be nice if all these agencies that we're paying with our tax dollars, I just paid mine, would just get together and just come up with a program, we could discuss it, and let's do what's best for the country. We own the property, we own the water, and as long as that water's on our property, we can use it. But we're good stewards. I don't think there's anybody in here, any of these agencies that come up here with all these people, they need to go around and walk in our shoes for just one day and look at what we have here. Okay, that goes all the way from the city level all the way to the federal government. Let's just all get together. Let's have these agencies get together. And if they want to attack us, let's do one army at a time. We're fighting a world war here within the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Nita?
Hi, my name is Nita Still, and my subject is a little bit different, but it is connected. And what I'm going to say can be found on the internet if you care to look it up. It was around, I guess it was 1972, when Reed Noss, who has a PhD in forestry, I believe, and David Foreman, who is a radical environmentalist, and Michael Soule, I think he's another environmentalist. They created the Wildlands Project, which, well, the Wildlands Project and Agenda 21, which is 40 chapters of how to make everything sustainable, and that's what this is happening here today. Agenda 21 is, 40 chapters of how to make everything sustainable. And they want to take the Wildlands Project, and Agenda 21 wants to take 55% of the land for the animals. Now, doesn't that, to me, it seems like what all these agencies are doing, they're organized, but they don't know what they're doing. And it's going to end up a wilderness up here. And the dams, when they were the KBRA, all the NGOs, which are environmentalists, non-governmental organizations, they are the main ones, and they wanted those meetings kept only to the people that wanted the dams out. And that's 2.5 years. And nobody calls that a conspiracy?
You're wrong there. Okay, let's keep on the issue of the Scott Valley, okay?
This is an issue of Scott Valley. It's an issue of Scott Valley. And also there was an article I read on the internet where it was back east somewhere, where the dams were taken out, the riparian areas disappeared. There wasn't enough water. And I sort of feel like that's what's going to happen if the dams are taken out here. In fact, I saw pictures by Richard Garrick, who's a biologist as well as a chiropractor. It showed the level of the river with the dams, and it was very high. And when the dams were removed, and this is up in Oregon, the flow was exceedingly low. And I'm just wondering if there will be hardly any flow to any of the rivers in Scott Valley if the dams come out.
One more did just come in, and we've got a little bit of time. So Rick Gonzalez. Rick Gonzalez.
I apologize for the late notice, and I just wrote this, so if you can bear with me. But I'm one of 4 generations on the Klamath immediately below Iron Gate, where Iron Gate Dam now is. There's a theme presented here today, a theme which falls on deaf ears. That theme is that those vested, whose quality of life and environment are inextricably linked, That theme is the innovative continuity of knowledge and experimentation of those affected. The reason you will not be effectively heard is that TMDLs are a product of blanket, unsubstantiated, locally inapplicable policies by the ESA and CEQA agenda-driven directions. That is why your voices and input will see no impact, and that is why regionally devastating regulatory impositions will be found as necessary to comply with those directives. Ironically, those very impositions preclude us from protecting the environment and future we cherish. Without ability or incentive, there is no ability to survive. We only have two options that may make a difference, as far as I can see. That is either litigation or changes to the ESA and CEQA undercutting public funding to non-vested, self-benefiting, agenda-driven groups and policies. Only by providing unbiased, fully researched and proven recommendations will the environment to be voluntarily implemented by vested knowledgeable will the environment see its greatest long-term benefits. Thank you. Sorry for standing.
Thank you. He's going to walk out and leave. Okay, Sharna is next. I just want to say that I appreciate Sharna very much. She's a realtor, local realtor, and she actually got interested in, I hope I'm right on this, she got interested in the Watershed Council because as a realtor she realized that too many realtors were selling land or whatever to people, and they weren't aware of the real water rights. And they were promising things that weren't there or didn't know what was there. So she began to get really interested in all this, and she's become pretty smart.
Thank you, Marla. It has been very interesting to listen to everybody's talk today about what they're doing on their land, and I wish we had opportunities like this more often. I will say the purpose of today's meeting, I believe, is to talk about the waiver, and I will say I'm a little disappointed that out of the board, I believe there's still only one staff member or one board member. I appreciate you coming up because this is stuff that you guys need to hear from our community. The Watershed Council, one of the purposes that we have is to try to be a conduit of information, and one thing we've been criticized for is not supplying the staff and the board with enough information on things that we're doing here voluntarily under the TMDL and the voluntary waiver that we're under. But I do want to point out that I think it's important that the staff here, or the board, hears directly from the community, so I do appreciate your coming up, and I hope you take more opportunities before you make a critical decision in August about whether you're going to grant a continued waiver. But in your own TMDL, I would just like to read something, because this is something that just continues to bother me, but this is in your action plan within the TMDL. In order to determine the effectiveness of Scott River TMDL action plan, the Regional Water Board staff shall develop a compliance and trend monitoring plan. The plan should include a description of monitoring objectives, parameters of monitoring, procedures and techniques, locations of monitoring stations, frequency and duration, quality control and quality assurance protocols, data management protocols, data and assurance distribution protocols, benchmark conditions where available, measurable milestones, and specific dates for monitoring and data analysis. The Regional Water Board staff shall complete this monitoring plan by September 8th of 2007. So unfortunately, we're now coming up to the point where we're going to be possibly forced to become under a more restrictive or permitting type process with the TMDL, and I'm just asking, as a Watershed Council member and as a community member and a board member or a business owner, that you strongly consider to allow the waiver to continue on a voluntary measure, because in your own document, you've not provided us the ability to show you that things that we are doing are effective, and I think it would be unreasonable then to apply another layer of permits, fees, when you've not allowed the opportunity for us to show you within your own documents. And I believe, Brian, this is in the process, but it's not complete yet. And so I guess that's all I have to say.
Okay. Brian, I think you wanted to finish it out, and we're just about on time.